started, who's ever heard of Tupac?
Ooh,
Good. Who can tell me one thing about him? Say it. Just you don't have to. Anybody.
He's a gang member?
Well, yeah. Okay.
He's a rapper.
Yeah.
Oh.
He did.
Oh, rest in peace, Sad.
Okay, so first, before, if you haven't ever heard of him, a lot of people have, so that's good. We're gonna watch this little 4-minute video about his life.
Tupac Shakur is one of the all-time greats.
Actor, poet, and rap legend, Tupac Shakur was one of Rolling Stone's 100 greatest artists of all time.
Pac's hip-hop presence wasn't just about being a good rapper. The reason why people look so highly of him is because of his poetry, because of he could act, because he did all those artistic things so well.
Tupac Amaru Shakur was born on June 16, 1971. While his mother was an activist who raised him under the Black Panther philosophy, she was also a drug addict who moved him from homes to homeless shelters before Shakur found refuge at the Baltimore School for the Arts.
Tupac's life with family members of Black Panther Party had a very significant impact on him because there's always a social responsibility that's always incorporated into his music.
After moving to California in 1988, Shakur became a background dancer and vocalist for the group Digital Underground.
He was a quasi-roadie, dancer, and sometimes on that tour, they gave him the stage. Very energetic kid, very smart, very wise, very measured.
In 1991, Tupac changed rap forever with his debut single, Brenda's Got a Baby, from the album Tupacalypse Now.
He could be the rapper, he could be the celebrity, he could be the MC. But the same rapper, celebrity, MC made a record called Brenda Had a Baby. He wasn't afraid of responsibility. That's what makes him great.
Shakur appeared in several films, including a starring role in the 1992 film Juice. The next year, he released his second album, which featured the hit singles I Get Around and Keep Your Head Up.
One of my favorite records is that Keep Your Head Up. That was just like what people dared not to ever talk about, is how a woman might have some problems being a single mother. That was undoubtedly one of his greatest works. That was more gangster than gangster.
Although a rising rap star, Shakur was arrested 5 times from 1992 to 1994 for violent offenses. He spent 10 days in prison for beating another rapper with a baseball bat, 15 days for punching director Alan Hughes, and in 1995, Shakur was sentenced to up to 4.5 years in prison for sexual assault.
Tupac had this famous tattoo on his stomach, spelled out the words Thug Life, and he did embrace the gangster lifestyle in some ways. He sometimes carried a gun, he was quick-tempered, he didn't always respect women, and that was one side of who he was.
In 1995, Shakur became the first artist to reach #1 on the Billboard chart while incarcerated with his double platinum album, Me Against the World.
The album Me Against the World had a song Dear Mama on it, and I think this was significant in Pac's career because it showed, I hate to say it, was softer side. It really showed how much he cared for his mother and how much he appreciated her, and everyone can relate to that.
After serving 8 months in prison, Shakur released the album All Eyes on Me. It reached #1 on the Billboard charts and featured the #1 hits California Love and How Do You Want It.
Unfortunately, Tupac's All Eyes on Me record did contribute to the East Coast-West Coast feud that he had with Notorious Big and Puffy. When he did all his promotional interviews for the record, he talked a lot about the feud. And on the B-sides, he had a song called Hit 'Em Up, where he even alleged that he slept with Notorious Big's wife, and it just really fueled the tension between the artists on both coasts.
On September 7, 1996, Shakur was gunned down in Las Vegas while driving with the CEO of Death Row Records, Suge Knight. 6 days later, Tupac Shakur died from his injuries, yet rumors still persist that he remains alive.
For the first 10 years after his passing, 6 albums were released and each of them had hit records on it. 15 years after his passing, a hologram image of Tupac showed up at a Dr. Dre concert in Coachella and freaked everyone out. Tupac is essentially the Elvis of the hip hop community. He's never gonna die.
thinking like 20.
He was 25 or 26. He was
I can never remember how to perfectly format my citations.
That was a really young life. To be doing all this stuff, to be an actor and a poet and a rapper. So today what we're gonna do, one of the things we're gonna look at is one of his poems. He had a whole book of poems that his mother published after he passed away. And so one of the poems is called The Rose That Grew from Concrete. So I'm gonna pass this around, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna work in groups to do it, and then we're going to go over it together as a class. Before we even start, it says, based on the title, what do you think the poem will be about? So just on that little box right there, write what you think it's gonna be about. And it doesn't have to be like a really long, elaborate answer, just your first impression from the rose that grew from concrete. Does anybody want to share what they think it's going to be about? Go ahead.
Grew to be a good person while living in a bad part of society.
Okay. Okay.
I feel like it's about growing up.
Okay. Is that what you were going to say? Okay. All right. So I got a copy of the poem for everybody. We're going to read it together.
Both of them.
Both of them?
Just flip them both up, yeah. Oh, come on. You just have to, there we go.
Oh, okay. All right. So here we go. The Rose That Grew from Concrete by Tupac Shakur. Did you hear about the rose that grew from a crack in the concrete? Proving nature's law is wrong. It learned to walk without having feet. Funny it seems, but by keeping its dreams, it learned to breathe fresh air. Long live the rose that grew from concrete when no one else ever cared. Alright, so looking through this sheet, there's a couple of things which I know Ms. Johns has already gone over, which would be metaphor, personification, symbolism. So who remembers the difference between literal and figurative meaning? Anybody? So if something's literal, what's that? Is it, go ahead.
Isn't it real?
Yes, it's actually happening. Like I'm literally standing here. So figurative is the opposite of that. It means something else. It's not literal. So after our first read through, what is the literal meaning of the poem? You can talk in your groups. You can just write down what you think the literal, like actually happening meaning of the poem is. Who wants to answer? Go ahead, who's on first?
Don't give up what you do.
Okay, is that a literal meaning or is that figurative?
Oh, it's figurative. Wait, I'm looking on your ear. Can't look at you.
So you know what that's stolen from you.
Alright, somebody else? So what's literally happening in this poem?
He's growing up.
Who is he?
The flower.
The flower. Okay. So there is a rose that grew from a crack in the concrete. That's the literal meaning of the poem. Now, is Tupac actually writing about a rose?
No.
No.
I'm talking about himself.
Yes. So, So who knows what paraphrase means? Paraphrase is when you write something in your own words. So we're going to look at each line in the poem, and they're grouped together 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to just paraphrase what we think the figurative meaning is. So that's where that growing up comes from. So the first is lines 1 and 2. Did you hear about the rose that grew from a crack in the concrete? So we know the literal meaning is a rose that grew from concrete. What is the figurative meaning of that?
Well, say it again.
So, did you hear about the rose that grew from a crack in the concrete? So we know the literal meaning is a rose that grew out of a crack in the concrete.
Oh, he didn't grow up from a good place, like a good home.
Okay, so let's say, did you hear about this kid who came from a bad place, right? Okay. Lines 3 and 4. Proving nature's law is wrong, it learned to walk without having feet. So what does it mean by nature's law? Go ahead.
Proving other people's wrong. Proving other people wrong.
Okay, yeah.
For my nature was like he wasn't supposed to be this new artist or whatever. Like,
Right.
but he did.
Right, so nature's law says that if he came from a bad place, he's gonna stay in a bad place. That rose can't grow without dirt or water or sunlight, but it grew anyway, right? So that's what he's saying about himself. Just because he came from a place, you know, in the video, it talked about he had a single mother, she did drugs, they were homeless. So there were probably many nights he didn't know what he was gonna eat, where he was gonna sleep. And then gets talked about they moved from homeless shelters. They had different jobs that they had to upkeep. So he didn't come from a place that was very nourishing, right? But he learned to walk without having feet. So just because he didn't have anything to stand on, he learned how to pull himself up, right? Lines 5 and 6. Funny it seems, but by keeping its streams, it learned to breathe fresh air. So does anybody have a, go ahead.
Even though like he lived in a bad place, he still had his dreams, and like he learned to grow with his dreams.
Anybody have anything they want to add?
Like he learned how to improve himself.
So it says, it might seem funny, but his dreams, like you said, kept him going. Every time he thought, you know, this is too much, I'm gonna give up. He remembered what he wanted to be. And that's what helped him get out of that concrete, get out of that bad place, right? So the final lines, long live the rose that grew from concrete when no one else ever cared.
Like even, okay, so, okay, hold on, time out, I just lost my thought, okay. Okay, even though, like, he came from a bad place, and he just kept his dreams, and then he finally became something, and when nobody else believed in him or cared.
Right. So it's saying that, you know, he, by doing this himself, he didn't really need other people's approval at that time. He became something, and now everybody knows his name, right? Does anybody need me to repeat any of it to write on your sheet?
I need 5 and 6.
5 and 6? Okay, so that was, funny it seems, but by keeping its dreams, it learned to breathe fresh air. We said that was, his dreams gave him the ambition. Like, that was his goal, so he kept striving for it. So on the next question, we have define extended metaphor. What do you think an extended metaphor is? So what do you think a metaphor is?
Comparison without using like graphs.
Very good. So what would an extended metaphor be? So if you extend something, what do you do?
Make it
Like
longer.
make it longer.
Right. So the poem is an example of an extended metaphor. So the whole poem is a metaphor about this rose. So what are the extended metaphors in the poem? What do they represent? So I just gave you one.
Him.
His life as a child.
Right?
His life before becoming a rapper.
Mhm.
So he's
His childhood.
right now.
What other metaphors do you think that could be in there? So like, would nature's law be a metaphor, do you think?
Yes.
Why?
Because it might happen in nature, but he like changed it to like the actual. I don't know how to explain it, like the laws in the actual world to the natures, because he's talking about a rose.
Right. So basically, what you're saying is it's nature because it's talking about the rose, but
Yeah.
he's talking about society.
Yes.
Right. Has everybody got that? Anybody need to repeat it? Good to go? Good. So what is personification? What are some examples of it in the poem? So what is personification?
Personification is giving non-human things
Character-
human-like features.
Right.
Human
Yes.
characters.
It's giving human characteristics to a non-human thing. So what's an example of personification in the poem?
Oh, can I say it?
Go ahead. But, mhm. Very good.
She had it first.
I got a better one for hers.
Oh my god.
Because I have to. It learned to breathe fresh air.
So what's it?
Oh. Breathe.
Roses can breathe.
No. They technically don't have, do they have a nose? No. They have air.
They have stems.
Yeah, but not a nose.
So, but what is like when you're talking about personification? You're giving a human quality to a non-human object. So, what is it that you're giving that quality to?
Oh, it learned to walk without feet. Wait, hold up. Time out. Hold up.
Walking.
Not nature's laws, because there's no laws in nature.
Yes, there is.
No, there
But that's not. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, yes, but there's not a. That's not giving it a human quality, though, is it?
Hold up. I got you. Long live the rose that grew from
Just give up already.
It's basically all going back to the rose, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, the next question, look at the symbolism that, well, we didn't highlight it, but list each symbol and what it stands for. So what are some symbols in this poem?
Can we have a refresh of what a symbol is?
So a symbol is something that stands for something else.
Oh my
Yes.
god. You didn't even know. You couldn't even know.
The nature laws is wrong. That,
Okay.
And also,
So wait, before we move on, what did we say that nature's law stood for?
the society.
Is it natural laws?
Yeah. So that stands for,
Society.
yes, yes. Alright, what's another symbol?
I got
Go ahead. The rose? Yeah. And what's that a symbol for? Yeah. So the speaker of the poem, right?
I got another one.
So, concrete represents his childhood. Like concrete.
Does it represent his childhood or does it just represent like a tough place? Because it could be, the speaker of the poem could have been anybody, right?
Like cracking the concrete, like it represents his childhood. Like his home where he grew up.
So the crack in the concrete, let's actually think about that one for a minute. So the rose grew out of concrete, out of the crack, right? So is the crack in the concrete keeping the rose from growing, or is that what allowed the rose to grow?
Allowed.
Right. So would that stand for a hard childhood, or is that like the opportunity that he got that allowed him to grow up? Right. So the crack in the concrete is a symbol of the opportunities that he had that allowed him to grow up.
I got another one. Okay. It learned to walk without having feet. Because it's symbols, like even though he didn't have the best childhood, he had to learn it himself. Even though he didn't have that support system.
So, but is that really a symbol of something else, or is that like the figurative meaning of it, right? Okay, so here's one that no one's really talked about. Fresh air. Is fresh air a symbol?
Yes.
Okay, what do you think it'll be a symbol of?
Oh, a fresh air. A good life.
Okay. So you would say that the fresh air would be like a better life, like more opportunities than it would have. Okay.
Wait, no, dream records.
Okay, so the final question is theme. What message does Tupac want the reader to get from reading this poem?
Okay, so even though you grow up in a bad situation or a bad home, you can still succeed. And his life proves it.
That's true. Yes. So basically, summarize that. Anybody from any background can become something great, right? Is there any question that was missed?
The one before that, I was just saying them and I forgot to write half of them down. So I need 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Which ones do you have?
I got the providing nature's walls.
Can anybody else help her with some other ones?
Fresh air.
Walking with no feet.
What about dreams?
Or what about the living long growth and
So a symbol is usually just a one word or two, like it's something that stands for something else. So it's gotta be, usually it's like a noun or.
What about keeping it extremes? Because
Is dreams a symbol because it's, I would say it's more of a synonym because you have dreams, right? Like that's goals you want to achieve, right?
oh yeah, the rose is one.
If the rose is a symbol, yes.
What about cracks in the concrete?
Crack is a, it's a symbol. We said it was a symbol for the opportunities that allowed him to grow up. Did anybody else need us to go back over another one?
So Sister Six, I put the rose, striking the concrete, fresh air, nature's law, walking without feet, but there's another one that I didn't get.
No, that was all the ones we went over. I'm trying to see if there's another one in here that we might have missed. I guess we can, that might be what the, I guess we could write down that dreams also means ambitions or goals.
The one before that says explain it in the poem. What is that?
It's talking about personification.
Yeah, if you look on the other page, it's following that question about personification.
Oh, okay.
So if you answered it on the last thing, you won't have to worry about. That's just extra.
Okay, so we don't have to answer that?
Did you answer on the first page? Down at the bottom here?
What personification?
What examples of personification in the poem? Did you get that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's what it was. Anybody else? Y'all good? Alright. So if you will, pass it to somebody in your group and I'll go around and take them all up. Poems. I encourage you to go look up some of his other poems. There's another one called Ambition Over Something. And it's also a really good one. And it's also really short too.
Was this one your favorite?
It is my favorite, yes. Here's another one. Do you consider music poetry?
Yeah, because it has a rhythm and they also have lines, like stanzas.
Yes.
Do you remember how it said, Suge Knight to the car when he passed?
I don't remember if that was for being around, to be honest.
It said Suge Knight and Tupac was in the car when Tupac died. Well, not that long ago, Suge Knight got arrested for Tupac's murder.
Did he? Wow. Happened 96. 30, probably. Yeah. I can't believe it's not that many years ago. Who is it? Still working on papers? Still working on papers? Okay.
How did you